Okay.
Good morning. I'm Charlotte Jones, co-host of the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock on WJZZ Cool TV. Also streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public Schools superintendent, a former world-class athlete, conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, a longtime civil rights crusader, and author of 7 books. Creative Insubordination, What Old Men Know, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, The Poet Emperor of Earth, and his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run. Plus, another upcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, a Detroit poetic epic. His books are available on Amazon.com or by calling 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. Telford has been called a legend and also a lightning rod for controversy, a recipient of the City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year, and a Detroit track is named for him. His email is drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. That's dr.johntelfordedd@aol.com. Dr. Telford also has a show on WCHB AM 1340 that airs on Saturdays at 9:30 in the morning and Mondays at 6:30 in the evening. That's on WCHB AM 1340, Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and Mondays at 6:30 p.m. And now, without further ado, I present to you that old native Detroiter, the one and only Dr. John Telford.
Thank you, Char J.
I'll play it again.
Yeah, thank you, Char. Also known as Charlotte Jones,
Hi.
author of the series A Ain't Always for Apple. A Ain't Always for Apple. An erotic adult alphabet book. A Ain't Always for Apple. My name is Detroit. I'm a blue-collar town. Blue salt melts my mid-March snow. Speedy cars and sprinters spring from me. I father fierce fighters and funky music. In a Motown moment, I can spit the blues right back in a bureaucrat's eye. Have you never seen blue salt? No complex chemistry here, only the old color of a new sky. And there's a new sky dawning on Detroit today because Sherry Gay Danyogo, a member of the Detroit Public Schools Community District School Board, is on her way to the station to be interviewed today. Now, we were looking for Sherry at 9:30 so we could debrief, but she didn't get here at 9:30, so we started the show without her. But I have the confidence that she will be here because she is a most dependable lady. Here's a verse that I would like to recite, or read actually, because I don't have it memorized, but I would like to read it because it has some relevance to Miss Gay Danyogo. And it's entitled, The Values of Verse. Verse comes to us by pen or voice. We thus can always take our choice. Let me be also sure to mention that verse will gain us righteous vengeance via deft poetic arts that can topple oligarchs. Verse will clearly, plainly lay out what we poets dare to say out, like gentle mulings, lambs no more, but rather with a fearsome roar, as from some cacophonic core of lions. And a lioness just walked into the studio today, a lioness named Sherry Gay Danyogo.
Good morning.
And she's on the school board, and also I might mention, she is running for Congress in the 13th District. So before I introduce Sherry, I've got to, make a couple of announcements, but I'm glad that she's here. She got here at 10:02. That's good, Sherry, 10:02.
That's right.
10:02. That's
We're working 24 hours in this race.
Yeah, actually 10:04, but that was my 100-meter time. Back in the old days. Yeah, 10:04 when I was.
That's unbelievable.
Well, it was unbelievable then because it was on a dirt track, but that was 65 years ago. And speaking of track, I was over at Reggie Bradford's house over on Parkview. Right near my place where I live in the River House on Father's Day. I was there. I was looking for my son and my daughter and my grandkids, my daughter Catherine and my son Steve Telford, and my grandkids. They didn't show. I think my grandkids were with their father. But Reggie was there, Reggie Bradford, and he was one of my state champions at Pershing, and we had a great barbecue over there. And also Kenny House showed up, who was my state champion at Finney. And Andre Brodnack showed up, who was my city champion at Pershing. And Dr. Ron Turner was there, who was my teammate on a relay team for Wayne State back in 1954 when we won the Ohio Relays Mile Relay. I was just a freshman then, but I still ran on that relay team with Ron Turner and Jim Clark and my late friend Cliff Hatcher, the great Cliff Hatcher out of Detroit Central High. Jim Clark was out of Mackenzie High. Ron Turner was out of Northwestern High, as was I, as well as being out of Denby High. So, I wonder if I can remember this poem, Rare Relayist Reginald. Let me try to remember it. I wrote a poem about Reggie. Some would surely I call it Rare Relayist Reginald. Some would surely deem this strange. Reggie Bradford lost a shoe at his final stick exchange. It caused a hell of a hullabaloo. But with his customary flair, he won the race with 1 foot bare. Okay, one last thing I got to say before I introduce Ms. Gay Danyogo. I would like Latosha Logan from the Council President's office, Mary Sheffield's office, to please get a hold of Isadore Baker. It's been 2 or 3 weeks now since you promised you were going to help this guy, who's all of his...
Longer than that.
Yeah, it's been longer than that. Yeah, it's been longer than that. All of his belongings got burned in a fire, including his identification. The only thing he rescued was the clothes on his back and his cell phone and cord, and he's over there at Viewpoint Village, over at 4701 Chrysler Drive. But they're going to throw him out of there.
Oh, wow.
So you've got to get over there to help him, Latosha, or maybe Kari Ruttenberg. Kari Ruttenberg said he would do it. Kari Ruttenberg. So maybe Kari is more dependable than Latosha. Maybe he will get over there and do it. He also works for Councilwoman Mary Sheffield, Council President Mary Sheffield. So let me share his number again. Not Kari's. I'm not going to share his number on the air, but I will share Mr. Baker's number again. That's 248-445-9347. 248-445-9347. So somebody get over there and help this guy, okay? Let's don't make me have to say this next week on this show. Don't make me have to say it on WCHB AM 1340, my radio show, which I did the other day. Oh, and also I got to mention before we bring Sherry on, Eric Jones, otherwise known as Young Rado. Young Rado. We're going to. He's a rapper. He's a superb rapper, and he also happens to be the daughter of Char J.
My son.
And we are going to bring this guy on the John Telford Detroit show on WJZZ Internet TV in July. And Eric, I promise that we are going to do that if you are listening. One last thing. Lamar Lemons always reminds me. Central Michigan University has phased out its historic track and field program in favor of retaining its golf program in a budget-cutting measure, thus eliminating an opportunity for predominantly African-American sprinters to attend the school on track scholarships. The golf team alumni wielded more clout. You know, lots of golf team alumni are businessmen who cut a lot of business on the golf course. Apparently, Sprinter alumni don't play much golf. And Lamar came and picked me up and took me over to Williams's house, the guy who's in charge of the Black Caucus, Keith Williams. And we met with Keith Williams and a former track coach at Central Michigan University, because I'm going to be getting in touch with about 100 old track men to get them behind this effort. Okay, now Sherry has given us some questions and biographical information. Much of this biographical information I already know because she was my deputy superintendent when we ran the schools very briefly under the good board that had Lamar Lemons as its president. But Sherry has a Bachelor of Science from Wayne State University, a Master of Education in Instructional Technology from Wayne State University, served as Michigan State Representative in 2016 until 2020, selected as Detroit Caucus Chair, Vice Chair of House Financial Services, Families, Children, and Seniors Insurance Committees, and she is an at-large member of the Detroit Public Schools Community District Board of Education, and one of the only members on that board who sees eye to eye with the progressive folks such as myself, particularly when it comes to the reading program. So, Sherry, welcome to the John Telford Detroit Show with Char J.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you both for having me on.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this question. Have you got her questions too?
No, but
okay. Well, I'll hand it to you to ask the next one, and then you can give it back to me. But Sherry, what do you see?
You all made it very hard for me.
Oh.
You're the host, so I wanted to make sure that we are organic, and you can ask
whatever I want.
What you want to ask.
Well, it's easier though to have questions. I mean, I have an 86-year-old brain. I've been around for quite a while now, and I'm starting to forget things if I don't look at notes.
Okay.
So here's the first question. What do you see as the federal government's role in health care? Given the COVID-19 pandemic, what are your concerns and plans regarding public health in the United States? Now, that's not a question about schools, which I wanted you to ask.
Which is why the questions should come from you.
Oh well, I can ask questions about schools. Which is
why the questions should come from you.
Well, they will.
I have some. Go ahead.
You got some. Okay. Go ahead.
So first of all, thank you for having me on. I quickly said yes and had two things happening this morning at the same time, but certainly always want to keep my word, and I appreciate it. Anytime you have an 86-year young poet laureate that is continued to uplift the importance of literacy, education, track, track champion from our district. I really do appreciate you. So I wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to stop by, and my first time sitting with you.
Right.
So I appreciate it. Healthcare is a critical issue, especially since COVID. We see many of the gaps that exist in our system. Unfortunately, far too many people in America are experiencing healthcare no better than a third world country, and it's unfortunate. Right. We have the Affordable Care Act, and we know that many of the components of ACA, which are great and were expanded and developed under our President Obama, but many of those components and opportunity access need to be strengthened. And okay. I'm looking forward to working with the Democratic Caucus in Washington as Congresswoman of the 13th Congressional District to do that. I think it's incumbent upon us to look at a system that will provide access to care for all, universal health care, and so a single payer health care system would do that, and it would provide an opportunity to blend both public and private resources to make sure that every American has access to affordable health care affordable prescriptions. Right now, and I'm very proud that I received the Detroit Police Officer Association endorsement. But you know that our police officers and our firefighters fall within a gap, where their retirees are not receiving optimal access to affordable health care and affordable prescriptions. I met a retired police officer yesterday who had a few choice words to say about the administration of our city. He fought on the front lines to keep our community safe. He lives over in Harper Woods now, but very disappointed with what our police officers and many of our public workers had to give up under the grand bargain.
Right. Myself included.
You're
I am
okay?
a former City of Detroit Water Department, and all of my friends are former City of, majority of my friends, we all stick together. And we were talking the other day, like one person is like, I can't afford my health care. I can't afford my medicine. So this is a problem, and I appreciate you speaking to that. Not just the police. You didn't have no water without us. So
That's right. That's right. Well, it's not just the police.
Right.
But you know what? I spoke to them because they just endorsed me yesterday. I didn't even get a chance
to get to the others.
No, I didn't even get a chance to get a screening from Ask Me as someone who has worked alongside Ask Me very hard. But that's not to say that I don't fight just as hard for the retirees. And I know the rank and file is with me because they know who has stood beside them. But that's a whole nother story. But absolutely, all of our Detroit city workers who have, and especially retirees, and even Wayne County retirees. I mean, it's a shame when you balance the books on the backs of retirees.
Right, because instead of going after large companies, they took some of our pension. Oh, we need you all to give back. Well, we're the low tier. They didn't give back, so why should us? Why should we do that? Let me say this. You're watching WJZZ Cool TV, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like us, follow us, share us, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ, the coolest station in the world.
And thank you, Char J, for that commercial. Char J, author of Ain't Always for Apple, an erotic adult alphabet book. It's a series.
Okay.
That's a series. This is great. This book's going to
That's
sell.
a nighttime show.
Oh yeah. This book's going to sell. This book's going to sell far better than my books. I have an idea. And this book, this book sold thousands and thousands of copies. This is my autobiography, A Life on the Run, Seeking and
It's a
Safeguarding.
spicy read as well.
Well, it is, but it does not even rival this when it comes because of these pictures. That wonderful artist. I mean, she's incredible. What's her name again?
Daniela Vesquez.
Daniela Vesquez from Venezuela is the artist who put all these drawings in here. They're all erotic drawings.
So,
but anyway, okay, go
I
ahead.
got a flyer from you the other day. Honestly, I'm in Harper Woods as well. I had never heard of you or your platform. That's just because I stay in my little bubble most of the time. But yours came with, let's just say, several others. And I read them. I glance through them. What are you going to do to stand out for us?
Well, I'm interested I like pure assessment. So you did receive several others, some a bit larger, some maybe smaller. But I'd like to know what stood out to you from my platform. I'm the only public school educator. I'm the only woman legislator that is advanced and passed policy, but only one with legislative experience. This is a predominantly women populace, a part of the 13th district's approximately 60 to 65% women voter base. I am the only community organizer that has a 25 plus year track record of being committed to social justice issues, progressive issues, fighting for our community to advance, being on the front lines of issues like emergency managers, the EAA, the intentional dismantling of our schools, fighting for our pensioners. So these are things that have been a part of the core and the foundation of who I am. and I have a track record of working for these things.
Right.
I'm not just showing up today to say, hey, vote for me, and I promise to do X, Y, and Z.
Well, I will say your list of where you've been and what you've done was a lot longer than some of the others. They had like 2 or 3 things, and I want to say that you had like 20 or so items on your flyer. I meant to bring it, I forgot, walked out of the house without it, but I was impressed. I was like, "Oh, she's our guest tomorrow." So more.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right,
Timing is
because he
everything.
came yesterday.
Timing is
and I
everything.
was like, "Oh, I didn't know she did this, and I didn't know she did that." And so, it was very informative. And like I said, your experience was way more extenuating than the rest of them.
And Sherry has got a whole bunch of. I mean, she got some.
There
of
it
this,
is.
She got some of this legislation
Actually, mine
passed.
was a little bit different.
She got some of this
Was it?
legislation.
Okay.
She got some of this legislation passed in the face of a Republican legislature in Lansing, which we're still dealing with, and whom I hope we can get out of there, in 2022. But I don't know. We shall see. But Sherry, I brought you on here ostensibly to talk about the
Ostensibly,
schools.
I like that word.
You like that word? Ostensibly. I like it too. That's why I used it. Ostensibly, to talk about the school board and your goals for the schools. Now, I actually, my excuse for doing that was, for bringing you on, was so that you could do that. But I really brought you on to let you talk again about your congressional race. But I still have to do what I brought you on for, ostensibly. So let me ask you this ostensible question. What are your goals and plans for the DPSCD?
So when you say goals and plans, it's like something you plan to do in the future. As a current sitting Detroit school board member, elected to that board by the people to fight back for them to have a voice, to be at the table. It's been very contentious for the last 2 years. And even prior to that, while I had an opportunity to be appointed to the board, previously by the members who were in exile, and the emergency manager, of course, put a current sitting commissioner whose name will remain nameless for right now.
You're gonna say his
but
name.
has always told the line of those who have, opposed our community, unfortunately. And at some point, you would think that a zebra would change their stripes, but
No,
There's-
that doesn't happen.
It's never
Very
gonna.
rare.
It's never
Very
gonna
rare.
happen. It's never
Very
gonna
rare.
happen. But nonetheless, being at the board has given me an opportunity to be a voice for our DFT teachers, our DFT staff.
I'm in the DFT again, 'cause
Are you?
Yeah, because I'm the poet in residence. I'm getting paid to do that. I go around to the high schools, do my poetry.
Oh, that's okay. That's
and
good.
I teach a poetry class at Frederick Douglass. And for the first time in 60 some years, I am a member of the Detroit Federation of Teachers.
Well, you need to
And
ask
again,
them. You need to ask them, why are they being silent on this race in the 13th congressional district? You need to ask that question.
I would ask Terrence Martin that
Okay,
question. 'cause he's a-
you should ask that question, because I actually joined the board not because I didn't have anything to do. Remember, in 2020, I was coming out of the house. I lost my sister April 14th, 2020. I lost my stepfather May 14th, 2020. I previously had lost Isaac, my friend and
That
buddy.
was my man. He was managing me for my school board race.
And right in March, I lost him in March, and it was very challenging time during COVID in 2020. But the teachers call with fear, with concerns, with them fearing for their lives. Many of which have asthma, high blood pressure, diabetes, all of the conditions that would
They're calling me too, Sherry. They're calling me too.
that exacerbate
know.
their exposure to COVID and loss of life. And
Yeah.
so they asked me to help organize some things for them. I did that behind the scenes, and then they asked me to run for the school board because they were tired of not having a voice at the table. And I did that, and I've been that. And I get no thanks for it
No, you
from
get
DFT leadership.
well, you get thanks for it from the rank and file. I can tell you that.
Yes.
And you've always been for the rank and file. And some of the rank and file are asking me to run for the board now. And I'm saying to myself, I'm 86. Lamar says I'm too old to run for the board, but I don't think his real reason. Lamar likes to do things his way. and he doesn't. I disagree with him a couple of times. And he was board president and I was superintendent. He didn't like that. Lamar wants everything. Everybody to go along, fall in line. But we have got a real problem, and Helen wants me to run. She wants to put a slate together and have me run again. But this time, Lamar.
It's a lot of money for people who fought against it. You know what I'm also disappointed about, and I'm very transparent, but I appreciate all of the work that Mother Helen Moore has done.
Amen.
And all of those with Keep the Vote No Takeover and those committed to fighting. But I just think we have to do a better job of coordination, working together. Those who are continuing to fight these same fights. We had several members who ran for the board. We know how much my opposition put into that race. A free job. It's not even a job, a commitment. There's no salary attached to being a school board member.
That's right.
So there's a stipend for meetings that you attend, but there's no compensation for all the reading you have to do to stay abreast of everything that is taking place, all reading through the contracts, understanding what's going on. And in the legislature, this is what we need to rethink the school board. So that's one of the goals, even if I'm not on the board, is rethinking how the board functions. The citizens of Detroit are really missing out on an opportunity. When I served in the legislature, we have House Fiscal Analysis, a whole department, a bipartisan department that will look at legislation, contracts, etc., and then assess the impact that it would have on our state and various districts, and be able to share that in a non-biased way. The board doesn't have that. We rely solely on what comes from the administration and the superintendent. Being able to look at policies and give feedback on what the impact would be on our respective districts in our state. The board doesn't have that. This is the largest district, which was much bigger prior to state takeover, but nonetheless, 50,000 students or more, and you have a part-time board that attends committee meetings and then a school board meeting and then live and work in other jobs. And if we don't rethink how the board functions, the superintendent of schools will continue to move their agenda forward because board members don't have the real time necessary to really look at from a lens of a fiscal analysis.
So what are the qualifications for somebody to be on the board? Are these former teachers?
There is no qualification for a board member. All that is necessary is for them to be, a voting age, file, and to run.
And resident of Detroit.
And resident of Detroit.
No, okay.
But we know people move into Detroit all the time. But that's a whole nother sidebar. But my point is we have to rethink, especially now given the fact that we're on the hook for the old coal. When we went through the process of developing a new DPSCD, the old coal is still a system, a structure, or entity, I should say, that will pay debt on almost in perpetuity of our own respective
That
lives.
was a shell game. That was such a shell game, man.
I know that.
God.
But you know what? I and this is why I go back to the grassroots community. Everything that I fought for in the legislature, when I said it was not an adequate enough amount of money, when I said we needed an audit, there were not enough voices that would serve as a crescendo.
I was saying that, man. We needed that
until Judge Rhodes, until it was too late.
Yeah.
Until it was too late.
We still need to have that audit, and the state needs to pay for it because they're the ones that got us into this mess.
Absolutely.
They need to pay for it.
But we're so siloed and fragmented in the grassroots community, and that we don't stick together and stand up for each other.
That's right.
I should have a boatload of folks that's coming to every day on this 13th district race that know I've been fighting for you every day. I'm thankful for the people that have come on board. But the traditional grassroots leaders in the community pick which candidate has fought your battles.
That's
Yeah,
what I said.
yeah.
You pick who
Pick who's
speaks
fought
for
your
you.
battles.
Pick who
And
speaks for you.
and I am not ashamed to say there is no one on this ballot that has fought their battles like I have. Whether it's water, whether
know
it's
that.
schools, whether it's auto no fault. Thursday we have a rally down at the Spirit of Detroit where we'll be talking about the fact that the big insurance heist. It was supposed to be, Senate Bill 1 was supposed to be the solution for reduced rates. But nobody's talking about this.
Right.
All of the folks that stood beside the administration and accepted this policy said there was no redlining. Now, did you watch Channel 4? Did you watch Channel 4 the other night to say they assessed how true this legislation is? Now you got 18,000 people who will be thrown out without adequate care out of nursing homes, out of physical therapy institutions. They've put them out of business
Say
because
that number again.
18,000.
You hear that, folks?
18,000. And so it's nothing but a tax shift. We were paying our personal injury protection, which ensured coverage in the event of a catastrophic injury. Now we're in court fighting to protect the contract that was, if you pay for insurance from 1960, 70, 80, 90, 2000, and now you want to go back and retroactively take away what we contracted on?
Right. That's what our guest from a couple of weeks ago, that's
terrible.
What she was saying, that she's losing her coverage from this insurance thing, and she's fighting for that. You two probably should connect because she's an advocate for that. Well, I can't remember her name, the poet.
Devon.
Please connect her and let her know to be down Thursday at the City County building at 4 p.m. Our Red Wings players who were impacted with a catastrophic injury will be there as well. But this is wrong. But I have to say we have to do a better job in our grassroots community by standing up for the people that have fought our battles.
Amen. That was Devon Turner, by the way. Go ahead.
You're watching WJZZ Cool TV, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
Sherry, I want to tell you, I have been in touch with Dr. Vidi's wife, Rachel Vidi. We've been talking, and a matter of fact, Helen told me that I'm being used, but I'm not being used. Nobody uses me. But I do give folks an opportunity to vent and to explain their position to me. And she and I went over to the yacht club, and she spoke to me, and she gave me some information I didn't know. I really didn't know it. And some of it was about this Beyond Basics program, which I was trying to get replaced by the Quick to Learn program. I'm still an advocate for Quick to Learn. But she told me some things about what's happening in ghetto settings educationally like ours, but not just like ours, just all over the country, that is making it very difficult for us to get kids' reading scores up to snuff. And she also told me that Beyond Basics has been in the Detroit Public Schools Community District before she came here.
They were.
So these were things that I did not know. I don't know whether Helen knew, but I did give her the opportunity to make those statements. And I'll give her the opportunity to come on this show and say it too if she wants to, because I give everybody that opportunity. Matter of fact, next week I've got a school board member coming on that I might be running against. I've got Angelique Peterson-Mayberry coming on here. She said she wanted to come on. I said, fine, come on. There isn't anybody I tell can't come on. That doesn't mean that I'm always going to agree with them. But what's your take on this Beyond Basics versus Quick to Learn versus what's the program that Helen has? I'm part of it, and I'm getting that's why I have to.
Well, so I won't get into the names of all these programs. I will say this: I've talked to administrators, I talked to principals at different schools. I was just talking to Principal Bailey over at Bates that talked about the successes that Beyond Basics provided with respect to literacy.
Where?
At Bates. I said Bates.
At Bates, okay.
Right.
You mean you're talking about in Detroit then?
Yes,
Because
Bates,
it's
Bates,
used elsewhere too, as I understand it.
So-
Other districts.
No. I'm talking about Bates.
Bates here in Detroit. Okay.
Public School. Bates.
What's ever happened to Lonnie Bates? Where is he? I haven't heard from him forever.
I don't know, but you're
I'm
venturing
sorry.
off.
Yeah, I know. I do that all the time.
All the time.
Well, we got an hour. We got a whole hour. Go ahead.
So, education and having programs. The one thing that I've continued to say, it's hot in here. You all need air.
You got that right.
Whew.
Oh, man.
Jesus. So, the one thing that I believe in is scaling work that works. Scaling work that works. When you have data that show that we've moved the needle on literacy, you don't want to throw all these different programs in different schools. I like consistency. I want to make sure that if the children at Bates have benefited from this program, that the children at Gompers can too. That the children at Mark Twain can too. That the children at Edison can too. We want to scale the work. Dealing with there are a number of programs that were looked at that didn't have the same level of capacity. There are some programs that work when they're smaller and you put them in a school and they have one-on-one. I was talking to a former mayor who has a mentorship program with young men. Now, mentoring works no matter what. When you put a positive adult with young people, so a positive male role model with a young male. And we talked about their effectiveness of being in a small setting. When I asked if you've had this level of success, why wouldn't you scale or make it much larger district-wide? And he's like, well, we don't have capacity. Okay. And they wouldn't want to risk quantity over quality.
Right. That makes sense.
That is what we found in assessing some of these other programs. Not to say that they're not good, but can they accommodate a district that is 50,000, 53,000 students? And the answer was not really. We also provide and allow for our principals to select some additional programs and vendors that meet their liking and that they found beneficial. But the understanding, because I asked the question as well several times with Dr. Feedy, with our board member, the only thing that I've asked as you talk to me about what has been my goal, what has been my position on the board since I got there, is making sure, number one, that we have African-American contractors.
Amen.
That's number one.
Right.
They pushed me to a place where they said, well, we can't legally say African-American contractors, so we put language in place that would ensure that we certainly have Detroit-based contractors. That's number one.
Yes.
Number two, to make sure that we have transparency on the board. Every contract and every contract amount should be listed. And you'll note, if anyone watches our committee meetings, during our committee meetings, even though it's on the board docs, our website for where contracts are placed and information is placed, I'm very intentional about reading it during our meetings, because I don't expect busy parents and citizens to go looking through our website to find things. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to do that. The next thing that I've asked for is a dashboard that shows our citizens' effectiveness for programs that have been continued to come through contract after contract after contract. How have they worked? Have they been beneficial? Getting feedback from our educators, the leaders of the schools, the teachers, etc. Those things are important for quality, to scale quality, but also for citizens to know what we're paying for.
Right.
And lay citizens don't have time to look through 100-page documents to figure that out. But know that the decision making on contracts for programs to scale the advancement of literacy, attaining literacy, allowing recovery for our students who are behind in their grades. You can't catch them up in their grades unless you can catch them up with literacy.
You got it.
And certainly we know that with these 2 years of COVID, our children need that support.
Yeah, man.
So it takes all of us. But the problem I have as well is, in some instances, people only have a knee-jerk reaction instead of being involved on the front end of what is taking place. We can argue back and forth on should Beyond Basic be scaled to the level that it is, or we can hear the facts of the impact that it's having. And you said that you're going to have the board president on next week. So
Yes.
I think that would be the show, certainly, to watch and to go step by step and to hear for citizens. And I think maybe having Helen Moore on as well.
I've had her on before.
Well,
and I'll
I'm
have her on
saying
again.
to pose her questions that she had publicly about the Beyond Basics.
I'll invite her.
Okay.
I'll invite her. But I also want to go back to the reading thing just for a minute. When I was at the board meeting and spoke, was it the last time? I've been in the last 4 or 5 meetings. I went there with V. Starkey too. Who's got the boutique over on Warren, which I need to advertise before the show's over. I got to make sure I do that. I posed a couple of recommendations. One of them was, why not? Since it's been so horrendous in the past 20 years in terms of our kids' reading scores going way down, why not teach the secondary teachers to teach reading along with their regular subject matter? What do you think about that idea?
Well, I don't think that's the answer. I think so. I worked on a project while working with United Way. Project with UCLA, reading readiness, not just for Detroit, but for southeastern Michigan, and we assessed kids by census tracts throughout southeastern Michigan to assess their reading readiness by kindergarten. Yeah. The way our schools are structured, the more we've asked teachers to do more with less, teachers giving up their preps. Now we're dealing with COVID, the social, emotional counseling, not having enough counselors, you name it, we're asking teachers to jump through hoops and do it. And so in order to get this thing right, kids need the very foundation that is necessary to read. It's building blocks. It's starting at pre-K. It's making sure that we reimagine and rescale Head Start. It worked. What happened? It's making sure that we have universal pre-K, so that all of our children, even if their parents can't read, we're making sure that we tool our young people with the ability to read early. Asking a science teacher in high school, a trigonometry teacher, a physics teacher,
An English teacher.
English teachers, they're going to teach that anyway.
No, they're not.
Well,
I am an English teacher. I'm a trained English teacher. I've always been an English teacher. Let me tell you, I do not know how to teach my 11th graders how to read, and they can't read. And I did not know how to teach my 12th graders over at Southeastern to read, and they can't read. And we've got to do something about the fact that we have destroyed their ability to read for 2 decades. We've got to do something about that.
And I want to speak to her point. She said even if their parents can't read.
Right.
Which is why I wrote my book. 140 million adults in America can't read. Over 140 million adults. So how can they teach a child? So maybe there's some way to maybe invite the parents to... People won't admit that they can't read. It's a shame in that. And what I say, one of my taglines is, there's no shame in not knowing how to read. The shame comes from not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
That's what this book's about, by the way.
And that's why I tried to take, I know it's about sex, but I take that and I put it with the learning aspect of it. And it's based on the premise of a children's book, but it's for adults. And I think something to push their interest is because if a young boy, 18 years old, he got out of high school, he can't read, if he's walking around with my book, they're not ashamed to say that they have sex, but they are ashamed to say that they can't read. When you have sex, that means that I'm a man now, but you're a man that can't read. So if they've got that book and somebody says, oh, you have that book because you can't read, he can say, no, I have that book because the sex in it is hot. You know, I'm reading about something that I'm interested in, and what that person will say, who probably can't read, his friend, let me see that. Mm-hmm. And then he's interested in reading. So that was my goal in writing that book. You're watching WJZZ Cool TV, live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
And I forgot to mention that on this coming Friday, June the 24th, my compadre, Keith Owens, is picking me up to take me to Book Suey in Hamtramck, where he and Dr. Robert McTeer and Cornelius Fortune are going to read some stories from their prize-winning next edition of Detroit Stories Quarterly, in which I've also got another story. Oh. And I also have to say this. Gotta say this, Miss Virginia Starkey, fondly known simply as V, the proprietress of V's Boutique, offers a wide range of fine clothing and accessories for ladies. You can find all sizes of women's fine apparel in V's one-stop excellent customer service at V's Boutique that you can't find anywhere else in Detroit anymore. V's is at 16423 East Warren Avenue, 16423 East Warren Avenue, right around the corner from the Alger Theater and right around the corner from one of the few libraries that's still open. But Russ Ballant tells me that they're going to open some more, so that's good. So you can contact V at V's Boutique at 313-662 I forgot that damn number. 662 6622. 313-662-6622. Yeah, I deserve that for not writing it down. 313-662-6622. V's Boutique for fine ladies. And we've been talking about Sherry Gay Danyogo's ideas for the school board, whereof she is probably one of the only two members who agrees with me regarding some things that need to happen with that school board. With that school district. But I'm going to segue back to her questions on that regard her candidacy for Congress, and this is one of them that she asked that I ask. What federal policies do you support for a healthy economy and to help Americans without financial security improve their economic positions?
Hey, Sugar Shane. Sugar Shane is watching live and says that Beyond Basics is a very successful program. The program is in Oakland County Schools. The success depends on how it is implemented and who teaches it. Oh, thank you.
The only Sugar Shane I know is Sugar Shane Mosley. That's not the old boxer, is it?
I don't think this is the old boxer.
All right, okay.
I don't think it's the old boxer.
Okay.
So yeah, there are a number of meaningful ways that we have to address our economy. We see the impact of climate change. We see the impact with this heat. We see the impact of the war, ongoing fighting in Ukraine, with this $5.25, 50 cents. I hope it don't make it to $6.
Oh,
it's
$4.97. I bet we better fill up.
Right. Man.
Who'd ever thought we'd be running to?
Cost me $50 for half a tank.
I was about to say $50. Mine is easily over 100.
Wow, for half a tank?
No, I never get a half a tank. I try and fill up. Well, I'm always close to empties. So I try to fill up. But student loan forgiveness and free and affordable access to colleges is one of the key ways.
Absolutely.
That we have to address. Education and
now, Detroit kids can go to college free. What's this program that we've got? Detroit Public School kids. What?
Well, so the Detroit Promise was one of them, but we also have free access to our community colleges. I mean, as long as our children are filling out the necessary Pell Grants to get them access, our Wayne County Community College is a great institution.
It is. Yes, it is.
Great institution for our students to succeed. And they actually have a dual enrollment program, but that's a sidebar. But get our kids in high school started early and getting those college credits, that is good. A fully refundable child care system.
Yes.
We have people who are making less than $15 an hour that have to make a decision on what to do with their children. Think about that. The mother who, number one, single households are headed by at disproportionate rates in urban communities, and they have trouble with transportation.
Right.
They have to pay high rates of auto insurance. Now they have to pay $5 a gallon of gas, pay for their auto insurance, and pay for child care. Calculate what that looks like at making $12 an hour or even $15 an hour. It's unimaginable. I mean, and so these are the things that we need to address. First of all, giving our constituents and community members an opportunity to thrive early. So if we make sure that we're providing universal pre-K, if we make sure that we're providing a strong academic foundation for our young people to matriculate through our K-12 settings and either go into the pipeline of our skilled trades, you know, the Build Back Better program law, it's bipartisan in nature, addressing our infrastructure. But far too often in those jobs, the skilled trades jobs, you don't see enough black people out on the roads doing the construction.
Some of those jobs to attain are so hard to get to. It's like you have to go to school. Well, how do I go to school? Well, you can't afford to go to school to get the training. So there's a disconnect in that. In some way, you know, we need to fix that gap that's right there, because I know a lot of my family members were looking for things that's just so hard. Well, I want to learn how to do this, but the class costs $2,000. Nobody has $2,000 to pay for a class to get a job that's, you know, maybe a good job, but I can't get there, so they get frustrated. Then we have our people that may have made a mistake and may have a felony.
Absolutely.
All those things play a part. So good people have done bad things in the past. We all have a past. We're not going to talk about that. But you know, we don't need to punish them for the rest of their lives because they went in a joyride in a car when they were 17.
Right, exactly.
You know, when we all make foolish indiscretions in our youth. So all these things need to be cleaned up before we can get to all the rest of it. And are you fighting? You're fighting for things like that. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you. This is our first time meeting. You would think I would have queued her up for that one. She just teed me right on up. So you're absolutely right, because especially when it comes to getting folks in the pipeline and access to job opportunities. I have, in my legislative years and running for and winning my seat in the legislature, have also worked very closely with many of our skilled trade union organizations, and proud to do that. I've been their keynote speakers up in Shanty Creek. I stood in rooms that were 99% white, speaking to folks about fighting for social justice, access to jobs. But in the back of my mind, as we're having this kumbaya moment, it's like, where are the black people? Why aren't there enough? Why are the numbers so disproportionate? And when they say, okay, to get into skilled trades, you got to pass the math test. Okay, let's do what is necessary to get the pre-assessment training support so that they can pass, so that when we're rebuilding America, that it's rebuilt by people who look like all of us.
Right on. And you know what? You've done that as a proud Democrat. You've been doing that. And let me say this before I forget, which I shouldn't. Citywide, vote straight Democratic. Countywide, vote straight Democratic. Statewide, vote straight Democratic. And nationwide, vote straight Democratic. Up and down the line, folks. Are you hearing me? I don't care what party you voted for last time. You don't have a Republican Party anymore. This is a Retrumplican Party. You've got to vote straight Democratic to save this democracy. And we have got Sherry Gay Danyogo in the studio today on the John.
That's going to pretty much sum it up for us.
Oh, really?
Is that it?
Get out. That hour went fast.
man.
John's like, we got an hour.
What kind of hour was that?
Right, that hour
Well, I didn't
goes
even get
really-
a chance to talk about my expungement legislation.
Well, you have to come back.
Yeah,
and my
you on
clean
again.
slate legislation.
Bring you on again. I was going to ask
which
you.
is which is part of getting people back into jobs.
You're going to have to come back.
I was going to ask you your third question, but we ran out of time.
We are wrapping it up. We want to thank you for coming
Yes,
on.
My
indeed.
pleasure.
Very interesting. Like I said, I saw your flyer yesterday, and I was like, I'm so excited to meet her. So that's gonna do it for us, and we do appreciate you for coming out. Okay.
Amen.
Thank you. I'm Sherry Gay Danyogo, and I hope to have your vote for the 13th Congressional District.